Hey everybody, MS Farzan here, and in this video we're going to take a look at how to use the Kickstarter backend to create a new campaign. I'm going to assume that you've already created an account and do whatever you need to do tax-wise or financial-wise to make sure that everything's set up in your account so that you can create a Kickstarter on Kickstarter, meaning like if you need a tax ID or if you need to set up a bank account or a credit card or whatever it is that you need to do, make sure you do that so that we can do this video together and you can follow along. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on my icon here on the top right corner of the screen and click on New under Created Projects or Create a New Campaign. And then it's going to say, first, let's get you set up. My field is tabletop role-playing games and card games, so I'm just going to go with that. And I'm going to look under my category and I'm going to choose Games. And then I go to my next section, which is called Project Idea. And I'm going to describe what I'll be creating. Right off the bat, it tells me that the backend tells me that don't worry, I can edit this later too, and that's definitely true. You can edit all this stuff, but it bears mentioning that now is a really good time to think through some of the things that you might need for your Kickstarter campaign as we go through this video, because they're very important. Eventually, these things will show up on a finished page, and I'll give you an example of my one of my Kickstarters that I've run, where I have all the elements that we'll talk about throughout the course of this video and tutorial, but I want to make sure that I'm covered when I enter all this information. Even if I change it later, I want you to get an idea of what it is that you're going to be writing. So in this description, for example, I have a small description here that says, dive into a cyberpunk or urban fantasy world filled with magic, espionage, hacking, and gunslinging action. Super fun. And you'll notice that this field gives you 135 characters, which is less than a tweet, to say what it is that you need to say. So I'm going to say, create a tutorial that's fun for everyone to play! Exclamation mark. And then my next step is to create my location, but I have to first determine my eligibility to do so. And I'm in the United States, and I'm at least 18 years old. I can verify an address and bank account in the United States. I can verify a government issue ID, and I have a debit and or a credit card. So make sure that you have all of these ducks in a row before you get going. Now here's the hub of what your project's going to look like before you kick it off. The first thing to notice over here is that you have a preview button here that when I click on it, it previews what my campaign looks like. And right now it doesn't have anything populated, but I can always just click on that button to see what happens. I'm going to exit this preview so that we can get started. And there are some rules that you should familiarize yourself with. And once you do that, just click on Got It, and that will disappear. And now we have these several different sections that we need to consider as we're building our campaign. The first part is the basic section, and we'll look at each one of these in turn. But to give you an overview, this is where you name your project and you can upload an image or video, establish your campaign details. Then there's a reward section, which is that shows up on the right hand of your screen. If you've ever used Kickstarter for anything, that's where you are able to determine what are the rewards for backing your project on the right hand. There's the story, which is where your detailed project description and risks and challenges live. That's here, the description section underneath your main video or image. The people that are on your are on your Kickstarter campaign, meaning yourself and your collaborators. The payment section, I'm not going to go through this section because I think that's going to be personal to what you're doing, where you confirm your identity and link your bank account. I've already done this for my projects, but if you haven't already done this for yours, you'll have to do this here. Then you'll submit your project for review, which means it'll go through a review through Kickstarter's review process. It says that this will allow you 1 to 3 business days to get a response. I've actually clicked on this button and it's happened automatically. I don't know if there's an algorithm that just checks your profile or your campaign to determine whether it's at risk and in need of a review, but I haven't really had any issues with this, but just to let you know that you should budget some time in case you need to make some changes. And then you can go into promotion, which we'll talk about after we've covered all the other steps. Okay, great. So when I click into any one of these things, it brings me into another part of the CMS or content management system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the content, and rather than us creating the content here, I'm just going to show you where it populates in your campaign. So if I go section by section, I see project title, and that's where I just write the title of my campaign, and then a subtitle. That shows up here where I have Entromancy, a cyberpunk fantasy role-playing game. Here, or let's just do this so you can see. Entromancy tutorial. I need to learn how to spell tutorial. Entromancy tutorial, and then the subtitle is create a tutorial that's fun for everyone to play. When I save this, I can just go ahead and preview it, and I see up here, Entromancy tutorial, create a tutorial that's fun for everyone to play. When I exit this preview, then I can go back and I can choose all the different things here that I need to do to make sure my campaign is buttoned up. And some of them you might find to be optional. My recommendation to you, although this is a video about how to do the thing, meaning how to create the Kickstarter campaign and not how you should do the thing. I think there's hundreds of videos and articles out there about how to create a successful Kickstarter campaign. What I would recommend is try and do your due diligence to fill out all of the information possible, because the more information you provide, the more likely it is that you're going to succeed in your Kickstarter campaign. That comes down to having a really good video that you've had a video producer create for you, rather than just saying, you know what, I'll just create an image. I think you really should take the time to have a custom tailored Kickstarter campaign that looks beautiful, correctly conveys all of the things that you're selling, and really brings your community into the process of understanding what it is you're trying to build and where they can help you. So in this section, you can choose your category, which we already chose games. I can choose what kind of games I'm making. I'm saying I'm making tabletop games. I can choose my project location here, a project image. For example, if I have an image, I actually don't have an image that I want to use for this particular campaign, this new campaign, but the one that I used for this campaign shows up right at the top when I get to this page, the Kickstarter page. That's where I see it, right at the top here. And if you create a video, which I highly recommend that you do, that populates right underneath here under the campaign section of your Kickstarter campaign. Something also to note is that when you do this, you can also add subtitles, which I highly recommend doing. But again, that's up to you and up to your campaign. But this is where you would add those subtitles. You add a funding goal, which just means this is the goal that we want to hit by the time the Kickstarter ends. And that's this goal here, which it'll say this here when you, in this section to the right of your project image, what the campaign goal is and where you're at in the middle of your campaign. Like, let's say the second day of your campaign or the third day, it'll say how much you've made against how much the campaign goal is. And if you reach that goal within the time allotted, which I hope you do, then you'll earn all of those funds and you'll be able to move forward with your campaign. If you don't earn that money by that time, then you're not able to use any of those funds that were pledged to you. So that's how that works. And you get to determine your launch date here, as well as how long you want the campaign to be. It could be a fixed number of days, or you could end it on a specific date and time. It's really up to you, again, to determine how long your Kickstarter campaign should be. I would do some more research about that. The typical time is between 20 and 30 days, but it might depend on your project. It might depend on your marketing plan. It might also depend on the industry that you're in and the types of content or products that you're making. So that will take some doing and some brainstorming. I'm going to move to the rewards section, and if I went back to, you see that it's moving me along this track up here. That's we're doing the same thing as just clicking into rewards on this base screen in case you get lost. And you'll see that I haven't done everything in the basics section. When I have done it all, then it will fill this whole box, and I'll get a check mark, which will make me feel good and let me know that I'm ready to proceed to the next step. But you can do all this stuff independent of one another if you need to. The reward section is what you'll see on the right side of the screen here, where I have, for example, I have several different what are called tiers, where it says pledge X amount of money or more, and this is what you get. This is the name of the tier. This is a description of it, and then with some of the more fleshed out tiers, you'll see what they include within each of those tiers. You also get an estimated delivery and an idea of where the item will ship to if shipping is involved with your Kickstarter project or campaign. And so what you'll have to fill out here is a tier for each tier, a section for each tier of reward that you're providing. So in my example, and yours may vary completely differently from mine, but in my example, I'm really, in this project, I was selling a few different things. I was attempting to fund and successfully funded a cyberpunk role-playing game, which consists of a PDF that you can buy, a hardcover, and I also have other products that go along with it, like a book, for example, that I was packing in. So I wanted different tiers to say, okay, if you want to buy the hardcover, you're going to have to pledge for this tier. If you're going to just want the PDF, you can pledge for this other tier. If you want the hardcover, I'm going to pack in the PDF with it and the novel. And if you want a hardcover of this or a version of this or custom content this, that's another tier. So you can get really into the weeds with that kind of stuff. Or you might just have one tier and say, hey, if you want this thing, please pledge $10. And if we fund, then you'll get that thing for $10. That's going to be up to you. What you'll do here is you'll set a title for this, and I do want to show you this this section, and this is a title for your reward. So here, your reward tier. So here I have the recruit tier versus the Vanguard tier. Let's say I wanted to say this is the tutorial viewer tier, and the pledge amount is $10, and I'll say get a copy of this tutorial, and you can see helpfully it's populating this preview on the right hand side with that information. Estimated delivery, this is a real kicker. You're going to want to work backwards to see when are you going to ship this product and when is it going to arrive in the hands of the people that are pledging to your campaign. And I cannot stress highly enough how important it is to think this through and make sure that you have all your ducks in a row to understand not when you're going to ship the product, not when it's going to be finished, but when it's going to arrive in the hands of the consumer. And give yourself plenty of time. It will be so much easier to just say, hey, we're launching early and you're getting your product early, rather than saying, sorry that you got your product 2 months late and we didn't realize it was going to take that long to ship to you. So I would say give yourself like 6 months extra time if you need to. And I'm going to say, let's say January 2021, that's when you're going to get this thing. And then I've created this reward tier. Now I need to decide what items are going to go with this tier. So I'll say you're going to get the tutorial video, and you're also going to get the tutorial book. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. And I can say, with this, if you pledge $10 or more, you get the tutorial viewer tier, and you get a copy of this tutorial, and it includes a video and a book. It's estimated to be delivered in January of 2021. And this reward, let's say I'm shipping a physical reward, I could say I'm not including shipping, or it doesn't require shipping. I only ship to certain countries, or I ship to anywhere in the world. You'll have to decide this in your product pipeline, how that's going to look for you. The reward quantity just says, is there a limit to the quantity of these books? Like, am I doing an exclusive print run so you can only get 100 of them? Or are there unlimited resources or inventory that people can just keep ordering these different things? That's going to depend on your product. Is there a time limit of this reward, or can anyone pledge this reward within the greater product timeline or campaign timeline of your Kickstarter campaign? I'm going to save that reward. I didn't select a shipping option. I'm going to just say ships anywhere in the world. Make it easy. And I can determine the shipping cost here for the United States where I'm located or elsewhere. Or I can say, and this is probably going to be a guess, so you'll have to look this up with your own product and do some estimates about how much it's going to cost. Or I can say, hey, I'm going to cover the shipping for you, or we're going to deal with this after the Kickstarter, and I'll give you an idea about how to manage that. I'll save this reward. And now what it does is it shows me this tier that I can edit or duplicate or delete. And it also shows me the items down here that are used in this Kickstarter campaign. So let's say I want to duplicate this tier, and I want to call this new tier Tutorial Hero. And I want this to be $20. And I'll say, get 2 copies of this tutorial and more. And same delivery, but I want to say you get 2 copies of the tutorial and another item, you get a signed autograph of tutorial. This is really super boring, but I'm just giving you an example so that you can make it exciting for yourself. And now that shows up in my Tutorial Hero campaign area, or the reward area. And I can change or edit these selections as necessary. And when I save it, not only do they both show up here in my saved rewards, but the new item shows up here. So I can use this item, the signed autograph, for further tiers as necessary. And you'll see that on my campaign page, which I have on the one of the base tiers. You get a PDF of the Entermancy RPG and a digital copy of the book. Well, when you go to the $30 or more tier, the Revolutionary tier, not only do I have a different description, but it includes those 2 items, the PDF and the digital copy of the book, but also the hardcover, and then so on and so forth. I've added other rewards within each of those reward tiers. So that's how rewards work, and you can change them as necessary. The next section is called the story. And the story is the project description of the campaign that you've created. That's what populates in this whole area here. When you click on this campaign button up here, all of this stuff is populated right in this like very simple content management form or area. It's like really light content management. There's not too much that you can do with it. You can create a headline or like a larger font. Like I'm saying, hello, that's my normal font. I could create a headline here out of that. That's a bit larger. I can create bullet points. I can make it bold or italics. I can add a hyperlink, an image or a video or audio. A general best practice, although do this how you like, is to create images for your headers. So my designer has created images for each of my headers instead of using this headline. And then interspersing other images along the way, along with bullet points and different formatting. You can link stuff here if need be. And your sections will be determined by the type of product that you're selling. You might have some stretch goals that you add based on how well the project or the campaign performs. I would do some research on this, check out some competitive or comparative titles or games or products on Kickstarter that have been successfully funded and kind of model yours after that. and create a story that is genuine and authentic, but also has all of these different elements. Like, take some time to make this look nice. And then here you'll want to indicate any risks or challenges that you might encounter, so that you're being upfront about the issues that you might have in your campaign that might not allow you to deploy on time. And then there are environmental commitments, which are new to me, which you'll have to select, that will say reduce your project impact on the planet, increase the chance that we'll feature you by making environmental commitments. I have no idea how this works or whether it will help the performance of your project, so it's worth looking into, I suppose. Then you can move to the people section and say who's on the project. Obviously, this will include your profile, so I would make sure that your public profile is all buttoned up and looks good. You can also create a vanity URL for your own profile page, so people can access your information more easily, and add any collaborators. And like I said, we'll skip the payment section just because that will be particular to you. When you complete all this and you hit preview and you get a good look at what your project's going to look like and you're happy with it, you'll submit it for review. And like it says, it might take 1 to 3 business days, more or less, for a response. And you'll be prepared for launch based on that timeline that we discussed earlier. And you'll have to click the button that says, okay to go, publish my Kickstarter project. And then hopefully you'll be successful and you'll see a lot of pledges. And you can... like I said, I won't presume to give you too much advice on how to run a successful Kickstarter campaign, because there's a lot of advice out there already about how to do that, and you really should do your research so that you make sure that you do as best as you can to make this project a success. But I will say that you are able to generate a URL for your project, which means like a link that you can send people to check out your project ahead of time, and add it to their I think they're called like desired lists, or like I don't know, your upcoming project list or something like that, so they're notified when your project goes live. I'd highly recommend to go in there and to use that URL in all of your marketing to get people excited for the campaign, and they know when it's going to launch, and they come to your project page on the day of launch and support your project by pledging, because that can really make or break how well your project does by how much it is funded in the first 24 to 48 hours. That really makes a big difference from what I have seen in the success of campaigns on Kickstarter. You want to make sure that you are going towards that funding goal within the first couple of days, so that you pick up enough steam for the middle of your campaign, which can be a lot slower. I've looked at a lot of data on this, and of course it depends on the type of project and the category, and like how much marketing budget you have behind your product, and all of that's going to depend on your own strategy of how much do you need to make the product, how much are you willing to go to Kickstarter for, how much do you think people will pay for your product. Like, there's a lot of things to consider and a lot of research to do, but by and large, you'll see that if you're tracking towards success, at least a third of your project will fund in the first 48 hours. The next third will fund over the middle of the campaign, and the last third will fund over the last 48 hours of your campaign. That's a general rule. It's not necessarily true for every case, but it's something good to go by, and to be aware that a lot of times, unless you get pick up with like a PR site or an influencer or something like that that really sets people to checking out your campaign, you won't see a lot of action in the middle of your campaign. So you want to make sure to press hard in the first 48 hours and really get everybody on board from the get-go, so that you can make sure that you're doing as best as you can to get funded as early as possible. Once you have your page live, I don't have a live page right now, but I can show you some of the things that you'll see. You'll see in this section, in the top right section, any updates to funding, and this happens in live time. When someone backs your project or your campaign, you'll see that those funds come in and update up here, which is a nice feeling. And if I go up to my menu up here, I can look at my dashboard, which will show you things that happened over the course of your campaign. And if you're in the middle of a campaign, you'll see what happened. You'll see that, and I'm happy to share this information with you as it's pretty public by this point. And this project was a couple of years ago. I attempted to get, I think the funding goal, let's see, it was $2,000 or something. I can't remember, but it funded pretty quickly, and then it continued to rise over the course of the campaign. And you'll see the biggest jumps were the first third and the last third of the campaign, and not too much, but a little bit happening in the middle of third of the campaign. And you can see here the pledges via Kickstarter, the pledges versus external refers, and pledges versus my custom refers. And the custom refers refers to you can generate a specific link within your dashboard that says like, okay, I'm doing a Twitter campaign and I want to use this particular link from Twitter so that I know that when people come to my page, my campaign, and they pledge my campaign, I can use, they've come to Twitter because I'm using this particular link that I'm only using for my Twitter campaign. Or maybe I'm submitting a specific link to my friends and family. I want to know of the entire percentage of people that are pledging to my Kickstarter, how many people are just friends and family versus how many are randos that I don't know them. You can do that by generating a custom link and just sending that custom link to your friends and family. You can also set up Google Analytics and embed it into your Kickstarter page so that you can have a better idea of where your traffic sources are coming from. This refers section of the dashboard shows you a little bit of that. You can get a little bit different granularity by adding Google Analytics to your page. You get ideas of how many video plays are on your page. You get an idea of how popular your rewards are. My Vanguard and a Revolutionary, the middle tiers, were the most popular for me. You can add your Google Analytics tracking ID here so that you can access your project page analytics in your Google Analytics dashboard. That's a different story altogether. Perhaps I'll do another video about Google Analytics that you can watch later. And I'm not going to show you the rest of this section just because below here I see activity from each of the people that pledge my campaign. I'd prefer to keep that information private, but there's more information there for you. And you'll also see here in the menu section, you can check your backer report on each particular backer that's either pledged or unpledged or whatever, and get in contact with them if you need to through your messages. And then when you're done with your campaign, you can, well, I should say before you're done with your campaign, you're definitely going to want to post updates on how progress is going. If there's specific things that you only want your backers to see that people who haven't backed your project shouldn't be able to see, you'll definitely want to say like, hey, we funded or we've reached these stretch goals. And you just do that by clicking post update, or I can look at the ones that I've published already. And I have a bunch of updates here. Actually, they're more easily seen on the actual page here. If I go to my updates, I can see that here are all of the updates that I've posted. And I actually use this even after my campaign has been completed, just to get in touch with people to let them know, hey, your products are being shipped, or we've got a live stream of the game, or we've got this new product coming down the line. It's just a really great idea to be in touch with your backers because they're really helping you to achieve the dream that you've set out to accomplish. Also note that there's an FAQ here so that if you have if you're receiving a lot of questions, you can go in here and add questions and answers and direct people to that page in case you don't want to keep responding to the same question like, yes, we're covering shipping, or no, we're not shipping to this country, or whatever it is you need to clarify. So yes, so you've finished your campaign, and you've posted your updates and you've looked at your data and everything's well and good, there's a couple of outstanding things that you might be wondering about, and some of these actually will take you outside of the Kickstarter ecosystem. One of them is reward surveys. What you might think when you think of survey, as I did when I first working with Kickstarter, is that I'm sending a survey to my backers to get them, like, get information from them about like how they like my product, or like consumer information essentially. Actually, what surveys are a way to get information from your backers so that you are better able to address their needs in relation to your product. So if you need all of their email addresses and physical mailing addresses, you can do that through surveys so that you can more easily send them all their rewards in whatever fashion you've chosen without having to message each one of them directly. You should be able to just send them all a bulk message, or send certain reward tiers, backers from certain reward tiers, just one message, and have them return them all to you and send them updates and reminders to do that, so that you can have a really clean and streamlined fulfillment process. If you have a more complex fulfillment process, or want to set up, let's say, a pre-order page, you can go to a different website, which is called BackerKit. I'm just doing a Google search for it so we can bring it up. BackerKit is a third-party site that allows you to handle a lot of the fulfillment process through their dashboard rather than using Kickstarter's dashboard. And there are many reasons that you might do this if your deployment process is pretty complex, or if you want to, like I did, for example, set up a pre-order page. Oh, it's not here available anymore. BackerKit will allow you to basically do a similar thing to what we've done with some different idiosyncrasies, so that you can set up like a pre-order page where people who missed your Kickstarter can go to it and still purchase the items that you have for sale, or certain items that you will have for sale before they're available to everyone else. It allows you to pull in a lot of information from your backers and manage your surveys using their system. And they also handle some things like customer service, and they have a full suite of features that I recommend that you look into. And BackerKit they're not the only people who do this kind of thing. There are many other people who provide these services. It's just that I've used BackerKit before and they were great. You will note that they will charge you a fee for using their services. And I think it's an upfront fee or a percentage, and that's all. And you get to decide which one you want to do, but you have to decide on it before your campaign closes. And it might depend on the funding amount or the goal amount. I'm not quite remembering at this moment, but they will charge you a fee that you'll need to decide on. But it could be useful for you if your project is pretty simple and straightforward, or you don't want a pre-order page. You might just go with the reward surveys that Kickstarter provides for you. And there's one more thing that I wanted to show you, and I might not remember the name. I'm just gonna look for Kickstarter data. We're looking for Kickstarter stats where here we go, KickTrack. If you want more public data about campaigns, or you want to check something about your own campaign, you can go to KickTrack and name your Kickstarter. Let's say I'm looking for Entromancy RPG. No items were found. Let me put in the URL here. Kickstarter. Here we go. Let's see if that works. New project. That doesn't sound right. Let me just search for Entromancy. and I see Entromancy, a cyberpunk fantasy role-playing game. I click on that, and it gives me all this information about public-facing information about the game. What's cool about this is that it will show you this in real time. If you're tracking a project and you want to know over time how it's been doing, you can definitely do this within your own dashboard. But let's say you're looking at another game or title or product that you're tracking and you want to have more information about it, you can find that here on KickTrack. It also gives you a projection of how it's going to do based on the rate of funding. I have not found this to be extremely valuable because you'll find that your project is going like hopefully super nuts in the first few days, and as we've seen, it kind of tails off during the middle of the campaign. But during the first few days, it'll be like, wow, you're going to make like, you know, orders of magnitude more money than you expected because of the rate of funding. Well, just temper that by knowing that usually Kickstarters get a little bit quiet in the middle period, so that will taper off a little bit and you'll have a much more reasonable idea of like how much you can expect to fund. But it's a useful website anyway. It's kicktrack.com, and track is spelled with a Q. So that's it. That's how to create a Kickstarter campaign using the Kickstarter backend. I hope this information has been useful for you. If it has been, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more. You can also check out my books and games, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.